As a software engineer geared around networking, I'm having a aneurysm listening to this convo. Cool. Well, just know that I feel the same way when I listen to you talk about your mom, because I just want to I just want to all the time. Oh no. I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about my other friend who has the exact same problem. Okay, hold on. Here's a question. I don't know if this is normal or not. Tell me if you think this is normal. Okay, for a major city, okay? If you were to buy an apartment, okay, and there was no real internet hookup in the apartment, isn't that something that you would make like ultra abundantly clear to renters coming in? Because I was looking at the release agreement, and she was telling me that they had internet before, but the way that they had internet was, so she showed me a picture. It was a coax that came up through the bottom floor, and I'm like, this is not, you don't have internet to your apartment. You realize that, right? This is just being stolen from downstairs. There's either a splitter or something else going on. That's not real internet coming in. And at first I didn't believe it. I thought there was a miscommunication. But I'm like, it feels today, like if you were to sell an apartment, especially because they're young people, if you were to rent an apartment to young people, I feel like you would tell them, just so you know, there is absolutely no real internet being offered in this fucking apartment. Like, holy shit. This is how it works in most buildings in New York City. Swaru, most residential apartment buildings in New York City don't have an internet access in the room, in the apartment unit. How is that different from coax out the wall? So this would be my assumption, and I could be wrong, but if you have in your apartment a box on the wall somewhere, okay, that has some kind of service port or something with a connection for either Ethernet or coax cable, all right, this looks like something that an ISP installed. And my guess would be that the ISP probably recognizes your unit as a unique individual customer that's purchasing internet from them. If there is a cable that's ran through the fucking floor, then the ISP probably doesn't recognize you as a customer. They probably recognize a customer downstairs, and they're probably just selling internet to that person, and they're either paying for your internet too, or somebody's like branched a line off, or they've used some other like hacky means to get the internet up to you. But you probably don't have a real connection. So one, it's probably violating the ISP agreement that the building owner has with the ISP itself, number one. And number two, it would probably say a whole lot for the reliability and shit of your internet, because now if you're a customer here, I don't think you could ever call the ISP and complain. Yeah. That cable could be coming from that box, though. It's possible, but I doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's just some weird hacky diversion bullshit. That'd be my guess. Wait, I wonder if I can show a picture. Hold on. Let me scroll up. Will I dox her whole existence? Fuck. I think she just showed me. There's like, it's like you've got like the floorboard, and then you've got like the carpet, and there's just like a cable that comes up through the floor. Is the apartment like an actual apartment, or is it a house split into different units? That's what it is. There's a business downstairs and there's an apartment. Then they changed part of it. They renovated the upstairs. So I don't think the upstairs is actually wired at all for internet. The ISP probably only wired that building, but now the owners have split it into an apartment unit on top and a business unit on bottom. And the owners of the building probably didn't know that they have to have the ISP run a second, I think you call it a drop, right? You run a second drop upstairs for a different customer. And I think the building owners either cheaped out on it, or they didn't know they had to do it, or, yeah. That'd be my guess. My father has become a conspiracy theorist and thinks every federal organization corrupt and any investigation against Trump is corrupt. And how can I live with him without sending him deeper down the conspiracy route? Good question. And if she were to hire her own internet for the place, she'd be fucked the entire building up. She'd be fucking the entire building up. It would be obvious to the install technique. That's what I think would happen. If she were to call an actual tech out to the building, the tech would either look at it, and my guess is they do one of two things. They'd either look at it and go, hey, I can't work on this. You have to get your building manager to actually install real infrastructure to run an actual line up here because I can't run shit through the floor. Or two, the tech would look, he'd make a quick phone call, and then say, yeah, fuck you, and then leave. But it is possible that there might be a drop downstairs maybe, and they just don't have the actual drop installed upstairs maybe. Who knows? But I haven't seen like the outside of the place. Modems need to be registered to work with a line that is run, so an unregistered device wouldn't be able to supply internet. An unregistered device could supply internet if it was getting internet through Ethernet. Absolutely. It would just be routed. It would just be a router connection. I don't actually know if you could split coax. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure. Could you? You need a splitter thingy. It's like $5. I see them everywhere. A $5 splitter. A $5 splitter might work for cable TV, I think, because you can just. Well, actually, I don't even know now. Cable TV might be more sophisticated than that. Hold on. If you had a modem right here that took in coax, and another modem right here that took in coax, and then a cable here that was on a splitter, I'm 95% sure that this would not work. Because each device is going to have its own... I don't remember anything, any networking shit. Thank God I don't remember, because I haven't had to worry about this shit forever. Is it the DHCP that it will try to register itself with? I think it's the ISP's DHCP tables, right? Where an individual device will be registered with the ISP, and then that'll be assigned some IP address. And if you've got two different devices trying to access the same network, this won't work. This will not work. But I don't know if you can make like a coax switch. Like, could this device here be an intelligent device that has its own MAC address that then sends out internet via coax to two other devices? I don't know if these devices exist. They might. I don't know. I just don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure. You can split coax using a GeoDaddy splitter. You can, but you lose bandwidth. Yeah, but again, if you've got a 600 line, what does DOCSIS 3.1 allow for today? If you've got a huge line running through an apartment, customers aren't going to notice, right? This can work if you have a dynamic IP, then the ISP does not really care about your device MAC. It just assigns you an IP on connection. Okay, so I'm not a network engineer or whatever. From my personal experience, this is purely personal and purely anecdotal, so maybe other places work differently like this. Dynamic IP addresses are a meme. You kind of have a dynamic IP, but not really. What static IP means is that of the pool of all the available IP addresses, one will get assigned to your MAC address, to your box, to your modem or router that you have connected in your home. And you will always have that static IP address. Dynamic IP sounds like every time you log onto the internet or turn your shit on, you'll get like a different IP, but the lease times on the dynamic IPs, I think, are usually like a week long. And I think they usually try to auto-renew at the end of the period. So even if you have a dynamic IP address, you can have the same IP theoretically for months or years, as long as you like never actually have your computer off for like, you would have to shut your modem off while the DHCP is trying to release the same IP address. And after it releases it, you're not there, and then that IP is grabbed by somebody else. I think maybe then that's how to lose it. Yeah. But I don't think there's a guarantee on a dynamic IP that it'll even change every week. You could have the same one for literally months or years. I know this because when I was getting DDoSed, I had to relentlessly find ways to change my IP address, and unplugging and replugging in your modem never fucking changed your goddamn IP address. And then when you start digging through the tables on your are they called ARC tables? ARC? Am I making that up? On your router, and then you can read like the lease time of the dynamic IP. You're like, oh, well, fuck me. So then what you would have to do is you would have to oh, I hate that I know any of this. All of this is like through fucking trial by fire. This is so horrible. The ISP assigns an IP address based on the very first MAC address that it encounters in your home or something. So, but the MAC address that it's looking for is it's some sort of NIC. It's not just your device, your like cable modem, or or whatever it connects to sometimes. I think it might look sometimes through I'm trying to think of when it would do this. Because what I found out is that if you can if you get a new MAC address and then you connect it to the modem, or if you can find a way to change the MAC address on the modem, because some modems will let you spoof a MAC, then you could get a new IP address sometimes from your ISP. Other times you would have to call them and request a refresh, like you're connecting a new device, though. Because even if you have a dynamic IP, if there's a new MAC ADDI that it sees at the plant, they'll want to re-register it. There was this program for your desktop called, was it Titanium? That could spoof MAC address on your NIC, your network interface card. All of your motherboards have these to connect the internet. And you could spoof a MAC ADDI on your NIC in order to get a new IP. This is all so much cancer, dude. Fuck all this shit. Technidium? Yeah. Fuck this. Fuck this and fuck that and fuck all that bullshit. Cringe. I could switch public IP by spoofing my router's MAC to something else. DDWRT. Yeah, because you could install. You could install. This was so AIDS, bro. This was also AIDS. I believe this was open source firmware that you could install on a whole bunch of different routers. And if you installed this on your router, it would give you access to more controls, and it would let you spoof a MAC address on the router itself if the router was the thing that the IP address was being leased to from your ISP. Fuck all this AIDS shit. Streaming was hard back in the day, okay? Holy shit. When you were getting DDoS, did you ever try to fight back by launching UDP drop attacks? No. DDoS stands for distributed denial of service. Distributed. Distributed means that it's coming from a whole bunch of random computers, and there's not much you can do about it. Because any one of the computer, there's just a bunch of compromised boxes that they might not even know that. They might not even know that it's happening yet. Why were you getting DDoSed? Because I was Cuban. It was a hate crime. What was leaking your IP? Skype. Skype kept a publicly accessible database of the last known IP address that any individual Skype account ever logged into. It was wild.
You're kidding?
No.
Really?
Yeah, it was horrible.
That means that... Dude, I'm fucked.
Why? It's 20. Why would you still be using Skype?
Dude, I was one of those kids that was on Kick, so...
Well, don't do that.
Don't do that. That's where pedophiles go.
Yeah, Jesus. Don't expose me. You should speak more about how you pioneered this shit, though. Yeah, I did.
No, Kick the app. Not the. Not
Yeah,
the
I'm aware.
streaming
I know.
provider.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Kick. That's where. I don't know why. I don't know if anybody uses that anymore.
Do you have canned air?
Do I have canned air? What's in there?
Water.
Just let it dry. Don't plug anything to it. Let it dry.
Okay.
Yeah. Would a VPN have done anything, or were they even around back then? Okay, something that happened in a very short period of time is internet became free and storage became free. Back then, bandwidth was like at a premium, okay? Bandwidth was very expensive. So you could get a VPN, but they lagged. The bandwidth restrictions were crazy. If you got DDoS while you were on a VPN, they would cancel your fucking account. VPNs were shit back then. Nowadays, you've got like, oh, look, I've got NordVPN or Surfshark. I pay $1 a month and I've got like 20 gigabit lines all over the fucking world. It was way different back in the day. Back in the day, it was like $99 a month. You get a line that gives you like 1 megabit per second up and down. You might even have to pay for the fucking bandwidth. And it was AIDS, okay? Fuck that shit. NordVPN likely sells your info, by the way. Yeah, everybody's got everybody's info. Who cares? No one cares anymore. You said that it might be better for the ISPs to be government ran. How do you think it would affect innovation? What is the innovation now that ISPs do? Okay, where the fuck is that at? Anyways, if ISPs have innovation, I imagine most of it is probably happening at the plant, not at the... I just wish that the wiring was all done publicly. Nowadays, I guess it doesn't matter as much because I live in major cities where there's always good wiring, so it doesn't matter now. But back in the day, man, it was brutal. It was fucking brutal. Holy shit. And then Google saved the world. Back when we all liked Google, before we all hated Google. And Google started running Google Fiber everywhere. And then suddenly all these ISPs that were like, wow, we can only ever do like 5 down and 1 up. All of a sudden they were like, actually, you know what? Yeah, we could probably handle 100 to your home. Would you like to, like the guys like running ahead of the Google salesman, like walking down the streets like, you want to upgrade your broadband? Because, you're looking pretty prime for an upgrade. Maybe we'll cut your price. We'll 10x your internet. It's like, crazy. Every time I turn airplane mode off and on, I get a new IP address. My phone's USB tethering connection is now connection 242 on PC, up for connection 1. I couldn't tell you anything about phone routing. I didn't even know how SIM cards worked until like 4 years ago. Yeah, I have no clue I don't know how phone routing or any of that shit works. This is my friend's mom. She's a super Trump supporter. Any advice?
Don't be friends with them.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm at your neighborhood Kroger and I am going to show you that they are organizational criminals that run all the grocery stores, and they will use their food and their drinks to poison you if they want you dead. So, there we go. Pause.
5G routers cook now. I'm telling you, I take mine everywhere and I get up to 500 down. On what? You mean just like a mobile hotspot?
Here we at Kroger in Nashville. Here we go. I'm going to show you.
Uh-oh.
We are at Kroger. They are organizational criminals. These people are all fake shopping. I bet she won't drink that water she has in her basket. Will you, ma'am? Will you drink that water? Will you open that water and take a sip of it since you're going to buy it?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
It's poisoned.
Is it? The core water? Look at that.
Well, why didn't you try it?
I've had it before. What's wrong with it?
I'm not going to play this game with you, ma'am. You know. Okay, here I have a bottle of tea. I shake it up. See all those bubbles? That is the poison they put in it, and they have just put this out for me because they know I'm in town. See all that bubbles? That's not air, that is poison that they're putting in there. Let's go check out some more.
True.
Excuse me, ma'am. You're gonna buy that Sunkist?
Yes.
Would you like to open it and try it and see how it tastes?
Well, why's that? I'm not really. I've already got some at home.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's delicious.
It's poisoned. Watch. See all the bubbles? That's the poison.
What do you mean?
They're putting poison in it.
What do you mean by
Kroger is an organizational criminal, and they're
You can see how biased my chat is. All these people spamming things at her. Not a single person has proven her wrong, though.
trying to kill me, and so they're putting out poisoned drinks and stuff in order
So
to...
is there something in this that's bothering you? Is that what it is? Is there some particular stuff in the ingredients that makes you feel that way? I'm
Ma'am,
just
do you see
asking
those
you.
bubbles?
Yeah.
You don't have to play the game with me. Here we have some Coke. Let's see, which one just fell out. I'm gonna shake it up. We know Coke is bubbly, but it's not that bubbly. That's poison. And they don't care.
This is why I keep getting flat Cokes from the fucking store. It's this chick. What?
They want to poison me, and they'll poison 50 more other people in the process because they do not care because they want me dead. And Kroger is organizational criminals run it. Here we go. We have high C. Let's see if it does the same exact thing. Yep. Not as much, but maybe because I can't shake it.
This is the real hard-hitting investigative journalism we need, okay? Why is it so quiet?
Thank you all. So listen, this election,
I hate all of you.
believe, is about two very different visions for our nation. One, ours, focused on the future, and the other, focused on the past. We see that contrast clearly in many ways, including when it comes to how we think about the economy.
When is Kamala going to do a media interview?
So
probably
our
like a
country
couple
has
weeks
come a
after
long
the
way
initial hype dies
since
down.
President
You want to
Biden
like
and I
spread
took
your hype
office.
moments out, right?
At that time,
That'd be my guess.
we sadly remember the millions of Americans that were out of work. We were facing one of the worst economic crises in modern history. And today, by virtually every measure, our economy is the strongest in the world. We have created 16 million new jobs. We've made historic investments in infrastructure, in chips manufacturing, in clean energy. And new numbers this week alone show that inflation is down under 3%. And as President of the United States, it will be my intention to build on the foundation of this progress. Still, we know that many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives. Costs are still too high. And on a deeper level, for too many people, no matter how much they work, it feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. As president, I will be laser focused on creating opportunities for the middle class that advance their economic security, stability, and dignity. Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy. An opportunity economy. An economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed. Everyone, regardless of who they are or where they start, has an opportunity to build wealth for themselves and their children, and where we remove the barriers to opportunity so anyone who wants to start a business or advance their career can access the tools and the resources that are necessary to do so. I will focus on cutting needless bureaucracy and unnecessary regulatory red tape, and encouraging innovative technologies while protecting consumers, and creating a stable business environment with consistent and transparent rules of the road. As president, I will bring together labor with small businesses and major companies to invest in America, to create good jobs, achieve broad-based growth, and ensure that America continues to define the future and lead the world.
Wow.
And key to creating this opportunity economy is building up our middle class. It is essential. The middle class is one of America's greatest strengths. And to protect it, then, we must defend basic principles, such as your salary should be enough to provide you and your family with a good quality of life. Such as no child should have to grow up in poverty. Such as after years of hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity.
At 75 years old. Imagine if she said it. Oh my God.
And you should be able to join a union if you choose. Building up the middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency, because I strongly believe when the middle class is strong, America is strong. So in the weeks to come, I will address in greater detail my plans to build an opportunity economy. And today, I will focus on one element that's on the minds of many Americans as they pay their bills at the kitchen table or walk the aisles of a grocery store. And that is lowering the cost of living. So every day across our nation, families talk about their plans for the future, their ambitions, their aspirations for themselves, for their children. And they talk about how they're going to be able to actually achieve them financially. Because look, the bills add up. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes, prescription medication. After all that, for many families, there's not much left at the end of the month. I grew up in a middle-class household. For most of my childhood, we were renters. My mother saved for well over a decade to buy a home.
Based renting chads. Imagine being able to pick your shit up and move whenever the fuck you want. Meanwhile, mortgageoids are sitting there. Oh, how much interest did I pay? Oh no, I have to replace my AC. Oh no, my roof is. Oh, the city's mad. I have to go mow my grass and shovel my side. Oh no, somebody just tripped on my sidewalk, and now I'm liable, and I don't know if my insurance covers fucking retards like falling. Oh, but when you're a renter, Chad, you're just like, oh, I'm sorry. Let me refer you to my landlord.
I was a teenager when that day finally came.
Might be a stupid question, but in respect to economic policy, do you agree with Trump or Kamala? That's a hard one. My guess is I would probably slightly agree with Kamala. The thing is, Trump doesn't really have an economic policy. We would probably end up agreeing a little bit on policy things just by chance. But Trump's economic policy is really just informed by his social memery, like the social things that he thinks. So yeah, it's just hard to like pick. But my guess is Kamala's going to be to the left of me on quite a few things. Trump called for the end of the Federal Reserve independence. Wait, really? When you consider the tariffs econ policy, yeah, tariffs are always bad. But the Dems are kind of in favor of tariffs right now, too, at least on China, right? Well, tariffs are always bad economically, but there might be other non-economic reasons why you use tariffs, right? For like national security or something like that, right? Why do populists like isolationists so much and want to make everything at home in the U.S.? A lot of people, in my opinion, almost all bad economic policy comes from the lump of labor fallacy. If I had to guess, it's probably the single most pervasive and intrusive and toxic idea to understanding how economies work. And it's the idea that there is only a fixed amount of things, and the more people that come in, the more you have to divide those things between everybody else. People don't understand intuitively the idea that an economy can grow and everybody can get more things. Not everybody can have everything, but everybody can benefit in economic transactions. People always think that there's a winner and a loser. And most people with retarded econ takes, that you can hear that, even if they don't realize it, that you can hear that coming out whenever they talk about a thing. Oh, you tariff China? What are they really? That's good. What are they thinking? They're thinking China loses, therefore we win. Or let's keep immigrants from coming in to not steal jobs from us. Oh, immigrants are losing, so natives are winning. Let's do... like all of the econ policy is centered around this idea of like winners and losers and winners and losers. And what people don't know is you can have economic policy where everybody loses, and you can have economic policy where everybody wins. But people just don't understand this. It's called, well, actually, I don't know if it would be correct. The lump of labor fallacy is a more specific amount, is a more specific invocation of what I'm talking about. It has to do with the amount of work available. Is there a broader fixed pie fallacy, zero sum fallacy? Maybe we just call it like a zero sum fallacy, I guess. But this is the only time I've heard it used as applied to econ. Well, no, I've heard fixed pie as well, yeah. Two very pressing questions. How would you most optimally destroy the economy in a way that would be politically viable today? I would say probably going the isolationist route. I think the best way to destroy the economy would be heavily restricted immigration and heavily tariff all imports. So the way that you would sell it is you would say, right, you go to the border, you go down south, you go anywhere, and immigrants are taking jobs from Americans that want to work. This country was built on American labor. We'll ignore the Chinese and the slaves. But, Americans work jobs, so we want Americans to be able to work jobs. People can't afford anything. Immigrants are coming in, they're stealing all of our money and then sending it back home, and it's causing inflation because the Fed has to print money to pay the immigrants because they get paid by the Federal Reserve. And if we just didn't let them come in as much, our borders would be more secure, our natives would be able to make more money. You'd be able to see a friendly face at your local grocery store instead of some, Spanish-speaking guy, and it would just be, it'd be so much better to have American-owned, American-made things, and then we don't need to be importing things from other countries either. You Democrats want to complain about TikTok. Okay, well, why is it that you're not okay with the Chinese having an app on your phone, but you're okay using a Chinese-made processor or a Chinese-made, piece of equipment in every single office building in the United States? What happened to American steel? What happened to American manufacturing? Why did we hollow out our Rust Belt? Blah, 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 blah. So you'd sell it this way. I mean, this is basically kind of what Trump already does, right? Anti-immigration, anti-trade, and then you just go basically for autarky rhetoric. We can make and produce all of our own things. We used to in the past. Let's go back to doing that. Fuck the world. I don't know, something like that.
President Donald Trump says he wants a more direct role in how the Federal Reserve sets interest rates and suggested he could break with traditional policies when it comes to the Fed's independence. Trump has been critical of Fed Chair Jerome Powell, dating back to his own presidency, because of Powell's approach to interest rates. And during his press event at Mar-a-Lago last week, Mr. Trump made it clear he wants a change.
I feel the president should have at least say in there. Yeah, I feel that strongly. I think that.
What an insane take. And the thing is, most Americans, and definitely most Republicans, are too retarded to even realize how crazy this statement is.
The president should have at least say in there. Yeah, I feel that strongly. I think that in my case, I made a lot of money. I was very successful, and I think I have a better instinct than, in many cases, people that would be on the Federal Reserve or the chairman.
Can you explain it to me? Careful. Macroecon is not my strong suit. And by strong suit, I mean I don't have a solid foundation in this at all. There is an entity called the Federal Reserve, and the I don't even know if I could really explain the relationship between the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury and the We should do a macroecon course. Hold on, I'm mining my brain to see how well I even understand all these connected. I can speak broadly. Federal Reserve has two goals. The Federal Reserve's goals, two targets, two mandates, okay? The dual mandate or whatever. They try to keep unemployment at around 5%, and they try to keep inflation at around 2% or below 2%, around 2%. These are like the goals of the Federal Reserve. Broadly speaking, if unemployment is going up, and inflation is low, then the Federal Reserve will lower interest rates to increase the amount of and the flow of money through society. More money means more people buying shit, means hopefully more people are hiring workers. Inflation might go up a bit, but unemployment will go down a bit. And then on the flip side, if unemployment is very low, like it has been for a while, and inflation is starting to come down, then the Federal Reserve will tighten up. Or no, I'm sorry. If inflation is high, unemployment is really low, then the Federal Reserve should tighten up the money supply by raising interest rates. Means people are less likely to spend, less likely to borrow, and then that will slow the economy down. Hopefully unemployment comes up a bit back towards that 5%. Hopefully inflation comes down. This is like the dual mandate of the Federal Reserve, okay? The Federal Reserve is incredibly important because without the Federal Reserve, you could have these runaway catastrophic economic nightmares where shit just starts to get crazy. The economy is running super hot. More money is printed to keep up with inflation, and unemployment is low, and like the demand is crazy and everything's just flying out of control. So what you need is you need a separate apolitical entity called the Federal Reserve that can manage monetary policy, because the Federal Reserve might have to make decisions that aren't very politically popular. And you don't want a Federal Reserve to be controlled by somebody who's running for re-election. That is incredibly dangerous and incredibly scary because, so like for instance, in the middle of Trump's term, Trump was very angsty because the Federal Reserve wanted to increase interest rates. And the reason why is because the economy was running incredibly hot. Unemployment got very low, and the growth was year over year was insane. And the Federal Reserve was like, okay, we're going to start bumping up interest rates. However, nobody really wants interest rates to go up because that's slowing down the economy. What you really want as a president, let's just keep them low forever. Why the fuck not? I want the economy to go, 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 go. So the idea that the Fed is going to, this is why during Trump's presidency, he was tweeting out threats and he was like trying to bully the Fed on Twitter. Like, why you guys really trying to fucking raise it? You're going to fuck me with interest rates. Fuck you guys. You don't want the Federal Reserve to answer to or to be controlled directly by a political entity that has to run for re-election every 4 years, because the desire for that person to abuse monetary policy for their own personal political gain is too great. It would just be horrible. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. That's literally what both parties are pushing for. Kamala Harris said that the executive needs more control over the Federal Reserve. What, can you show me that? Was this Fed established via legislation or some other government mandate, even though it's private? I believe that the Federal Reserve came, I'm going to guess, I think it was after the Great Depression, wasn't it? And before it was 500 years ago. Okay. It was right before the Great Depression. The Federal Reserve might have been a lot more limited in its role during the Great Depression, or the mandates might have changed after. Because I think in the, I'm on such thin ice here, and I'm repeating things that I've heard from people that I don't even know if I should trust, so take everything I'm saying with a heavy grain of salt. I've heard it said that during the Great Depression, one of the issues is that even though unemployment was high, I think inflation was our currency wasn't deflating, right? I think that our monetary policy at the time tried to have it both ways. Like they refused to, the government didn't want to spend more, and I don't even know if the Federal Reserve did like interest rate loaning shit back then. I'm not sure. It was bad. That's all I know. I think it was bad. I think after the Great Depression, I think it changed course and what they tried to track with the Federal Reserve and what they tried to control pretty strictly. But I don't know enough about the time, and I don't know enough to accurately explain that. So I don't want to. Wouldn't the inverse be true of your explanation? Like the Federal Reserve leaders may use their own political will to influence markets, perhaps even despite a political enemy. I don't think so. They're just, the Federal Reserve chair head is just an appointed dude. I don't know how often they change. Powell's been in there for a long time, right? Let's check. Okay, no, not really, actually. Since 2018, for 6 years. Wait, who's the guy before Powell? Oh, I remember the name Greenspan. Greenspan was the longest serving chair from 51 to 70. Why am I thinking of Greenspan for 2007? Or leading up to 2007? Oh, no, I'm fucking retarded. I'm sorry. That was William McChesney Martin as the longest serving chair from 51 to 70. Greenspan was from 87 to 2006. Okay. People were mad at him for keeping the interest rates really low up through 2007, I think. I feel like I remember that. I don't even know if they were. Were they low? Oh, they started to go up again. From 2004 to 2006 or 7. It might have been too late at that point, though. I'm not sure. I don't know. If I wouldn't be able to tell you now. The members of the Fed board are heavily diversified. Their terms rotate in a way that every president has a chance to nominate someone. Oh, cute. Okay. The Fed couldn't do shit until we dropped gold. It's hard to... Wait, when did we drop gold? I thought that was way longer ago. U.S. leaves... When did U.S. leaves gold standard? 71? Oh, yikes. Left the gold standard in 33, but didn't fully sever its ties until 71. Okay. Having a... Oh, I don't even know what the fuck the Fed could even do that much then. Having your currency backed by some sort of actual like some actual asset like this, it's unchanging, like fixed, is like a death knell for your central bank. I think you lose a ton of control over your economy, and your ability to weather bad times and then to temper good times, I think, is severely diminished when you're using some kind of backing for your currency. It's very, very, very rough. I don't know if anybody has. Does anybody use a gold standard anymore? Not for any nation anymore. Yeah, okay. The last country to manage it was Switzerland in '99. Okay, wait, what is this? What's the point of tempering the good times? If economies run too hot for a little bit, eventually inflation can start to get out of control, and then your contraction is probably going to be a lot more brutal. If you're running too hot, so you kind of chill it out and you have your little cycles of up and down, but you don't want to be like super up here because then you're going to go super down here. I think kind of that's my scientific explanation.
Meantime, Vice President Kamala Harris told reporters this weekend she couldn't disagree more strongly.
The Fed is an independent entity, and as president, I would never interfere in the decisions that the Fed makes.
Wait, who said that they both wanted the same thing? Wait, what the fuck?
I feel that strongly. I think that in my case, I made a lot of money. I was very successful, and I think I have a better instinct than, in many cases, people that would be on the Federal Reserve or the chairman.
Meantime, Vice President Kamala Harris told reporters this weekend she couldn't disagree more strongly.
The Fed is an independent entity, and as president, I would never interfere in the decisions that the Fed makes.
Powell's tenure as Fed chair does not end until May 2026, and that begs the question, what could President Trump try to do if he is reelected? And what impact might that have?
What's the disadvantage of deflation? Sorry, but I'm a total layman when it comes to econ. You want to punish people for sitting on dollars. You never want people to have money that's not doing anything. It's bad. It's horrible for everybody. You never want people to just feel like they can put money in a bank account and not do anything with it and be rewarded for it. What you really want is you want there to be a bit of a pressure, or I think a bit of an edge on somebody where it's like, oof, if my money sit here, it's not doing anything. I either need to invest it in a business that can deploy that money to do something more productive, or I need to go and buy, pay for some kind of good or service, so that the money continues to flow through the economy. I think it's the big push for having a slightly inflationary economy versus a deflationary economy. I think somebody just said that's a misconception. Well, there you go. Putting it in the bank is fine. Banks use that money in the economy. Putting it under the mattress is not good. Oh, man. Okay, we're about to test. We're going to the farthest reaches of my econ knowledge. So when you say that putting the money in the bank is fine because banks use the money, my understanding is that what the bank can use the money for is quite limited, and that banks aren't going to consume goods or services in the same way that a person will, and banks aren't going to invest in companies the same way that people will. So if interest rates are really high and banks are paying out a lot in terms of interest, people just putting money in a savings account isn't a good thing because you're not getting any because the flow of that money through your economy is not as good as it would be if they were investing in companies or buying goods and services. No. Banks don't pay out a bunch when interest is high. I thought, wait, hold on. Aren't your bank savings accounts rates pretty tied to the federal funds rate? Is that not true? If I look up like saving, okay, yes, okay. Rage Pope speaks with the same level of confidence. Rage Pope is like me, except saying I have 100% conviction on every single thing I say. Rage Pope just pretends he knows everything about everything, but he literally will say the most retarded shit like 50% of the time. Is why I don't listen to anything you say. Jesus. Yeah, but as interest rates tick up, if people are just stashing their money in bank accounts, and even for deflationary stuff, actually, if your economy is deflationary, you don't even have to put your money in a bank account. You just literally hold on to the cash and it'll appreciate in value. But if interest rates are really high and people are just stashing money in savings accounts all day, I don't think the money is flowing through the economy in the same way as if people were spending that money or investing it into businesses, I believe. But don't quote me on that.
Some insight now from Krishna Ganapathy, Vice Chairman of Evercore ISI and former Executive Vice President at the New York Fed. Thanks for being with us.
Anytime.
So first, let's start with a bit of a reality check. How feasible is it for Donald Trump to fundamentally change the autonomy of the Fed and change the relationship between the...
You're getting into difficult territory. There are no settled points of view. There is much theorizing on the interactions that are taking place in the current economy. That's true too. Macroecon is like very like not. It's everything that I'm saying. These are like the softest rules of thumb ever. Like there are times when raising interest rates could probably be better for investment for the economy. There are times when lowering interest rates might slow the economy down because you lower interest. Like everything is relied on everything else. I'm giving you like the most surface level, top level. I barely understand these systems, and this is like barely like in general how it kind of sort of goes sometimes. But yeah, everything. Trust me, when it comes to econ, macro or micro. Okay, take everything I say with a grain of salt. And even with what I'm saying with a grain of salt, these are just like broad trends. Like things can change and happen in ways that seem like contradictory too. So yeah.
The Federal Reserve and the president if he is reelected.
Well, it's complicated.
You're parroting modern monetary theory as if it's correct as scientific fact. First of all, no. Secondly, no, I'm not. But okay.
So first up, former President Trump, if re-elected, could certainly let his views on monetary policy be known loudly and including through social media and other non-conventional channels. He could try to do what's called jawboning, leaning on the Fed in public to take certain actions on interest rates. Actually changing the institutional independence of the Fed, that's more challenging. The Fed's independence is enshrined in the Act of Congress, the Federal Reserve Act, and that makes the chairman, for instance, removable as generally understood, only for cause, which would mean something pretty extreme to make him unfit for office. The president can't simply appoint additional members to the Federal Reserve Board. He'd have to wait until vacancies became available, and those only become available very slowly. So it would be tough. Now, there is one complication, and that is that it is somewhat unsettled as to what the exact legal status of the Fed chair is and whether the president might have some legal grounds for being able to dismiss a Fed chair. That's not something that I think any mainstream lawyer or central banker believes is right, but it hasn't been fully tested in the courts, and so there's some outside possibility that the president could attempt to assert an authority over the Fed chair that has not been understood to be there.
If we look to other countries or look back in this country's own history, what does it tell us? Does a central bank that remains independent from political influence, does that yield better monetary policy and better macroeconomic decision-making?
There's just very, very strong evidence from the U.S. itself and from countries around the world that independent central banks tend to achieve better economic outcomes. And that ultimately doesn't just benefit society, doesn't just benefit the economy, and in the end tends to benefit the president as well. So I think there's actually a lot of good reason why it would be sensible not to try to assault the independence of the central bank.
Critics have blasted the Fed for being too slow to respond to inflation, and there will certainly be folks who say, why is it such a bad thing to have the Fed accountable to someone, accountable to the executive branch?
So you raise a really important issue there, Fed accountability. Now, Fed officials, past and present, will say, absolutely, the Fed must be accountable. But under our system of government, the Fed is accountable to Congress, not the executive branch. The Fed is a creature of Congress. The Fed chair goes to Congress to testify. He's grilled by members of the...
Shouldn't things become cheaper over time as technology progresses? One would think that as technology increases productivity, we should see lower prices, right? You're right, and you do. That does happen. The issue is you don't understand how the problem is at the same time we're getting a much, much, much higher standard of living. So the perception is that things aren't getting cheaper, but they are. So a really good example of this is insulin. People look at insulin and they think that like, well, the insulin was taken off patent, so long ago, and like we made this so long ago, and how is it still so expensive? It should be really cheap, and blah blah blah, right? Insulin is the best example of this because the cost for the insulin that was made a long time ago has gotten really fucking cheap. You can buy it for incredibly cheap prices, but it sucks shit. It's horrible because it's just bad. But the insulin that we use today is way more sophisticated, is way better than the insulin that was used in the past, but consequently, the cost of it is higher. It costs more. So people look at something, they look at a product like insulin, and they see the price either not change or go up over time, and they're thinking, wait, what the fuck? I thought that technology was getting better, productivity is getting better, all these things are getting better. How is this costing more then? It doesn't make sense. It's not a thing that's costing more. It's a new service. It's a new product that you're now demanding, right? People look at cell phones and it's like, have cell phones gotten cheaper or more expensive over time? I mean, you might be tempted to say that like, well, cell phones have gotten more expensive. And it's like, in a very, 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 very literal sense, that might be true. But if you look at what you're getting in a cell phone today versus back in my day, it's the value is huge. It's a much better value proposition today. Actually, the best way to see this would be video game consoles adjusted for inflation. Insulin is the worst example you could have used. Insulin is probably the best example I could use, but it's okay. I understand. You are an epic Redditor. Insulin, the current product, costs about $3 per vial to produce. So no, the price increases aren't because of the increased cost. Insulin might cost on a marginal cost $3 per vial to produce, but the research and development that went into creating the formulation that makes that actual vial only cost $3 to produce is where a lot of the money goes. So if we adjust for inflation, PlayStation 5 today would cost $589, okay? But the adjusted for inflation release cost of a Nintendo Entertainment System was $562, right? So if you look at this and you compare a Nintendo and a PlayStation 5 and you adjust for inflation, it's tempting to look at this and go like, wow, shit really hasn't gotten cheaper at all. It's like the same price. What the fuck? But the price of a PlayStation 5, what are you getting in this device? Like, what capabilities are available in this device versus the Nintendo, that we bought 30 years ago? It's way, 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 way more value, right? So this is why so what's happening is you're paying the same or more sometimes for certain goods or services, but that's because the standard of living is raising dramatically. But it's hard to see that, so it just feels like, wow, nothing's actually getting cheaper. Everything's just getting more expensive. This is fucked, but this, yeah. Okay, now do speculative markets like housing and why the age of first-time homebuyers has risen drastically over decades. Luxury good prices are not a good metric. I'm not even sure if I would say that game stations or these things, I don't know if these are considered just luxury goods anymore. I don't know. Number one. Number two, my understanding is that the amount of first-time homebuyers, like per each demographic, is about the same as they have been throughout history. About as many Gen Z and millennial people at this age right now own about as many homes as Gen X and boomers did at these ages as well. I don't think that that's changed very dramatically over the years, but people get really triggered when you say that. So, what do you think is the most important measure to determine whether the economy is doing well? I have no idea. If you could just do one metric, I'm not sure. I'm a dumbass and it's probably unrelated, but what about fruit? An apple is an apple? Transportation costs and stuff, probably. But like for basic food like that, those probably don't get much better over time, would be my guess. But that console analogy is bad, I think. They make them as cheap as they can to recoup costs on membership over time and marketplace sales. Do you know what the iStore is? Yeah, people have switched to all sorts of different models to try to like make more money on different ends of things over time. Sure. Do you know how much the Federal Reserve banks actually borrow from the Federal Reserve in actual numbers? I'd be curious to compare it to the federal budget in absolute terms. I don't think I can break down all those transactions for you. The thing that actually does the loaning, I think, is not the Federal Reserve. It's the Treasury that actually sells bonds and stuff, I think. Like, the Federal Reserve doesn't sell Treasury bonds or anything. How does the Federal Reserve plug into the... Like, when the Federal Reserve says that they're targeting interest rates, they don't actually even set an interest rate. There's, like, a goal. I can't explain it all. We'd have to watch a video on it, but it's too much. These markets are more complicated. or more, my understanding is not to give you a good explanation, or even understand it well enough myself to explain it.
And I can remember so well how excited she was. I kind of understood what it meant, but we called her Mommy. Mommy was so excited. It just made us excited that she was so excited.
Federal Reserve just sets fiscal policy. My understanding is fiscal policy is always talking about budgets of governments. The Federal Reserve has absolutely nothing to do with the fiscal policy. They're two entirely separate things.
Later in college, I worked at McDonald's to earn spending money. Well, some of the people I worked with.
I'm making the same as my mom in 2005. She was able to live on my income. I have to live with her. Nope, that's probably not true. I'm old enough now that I see you people complaining about it, and that is absolutely not true. Nobody in 2005 was making a good living on minimum wage. You have, I make the same amount. Yeah, no one in 2005. I'm sorry, I don't know what to say. I worked in 2005. I did work study at my school, janitorial work from 2004 to 2007. Or 2003 to 2007, I made $5.15 an hour, and then I worked at McDonald's, and I made $5.15 to $5.25 an hour. You were not buying a fucking apartment, even in Omaha, Nebraska, at the minimum wage of $5.25 an hour. So either your mom is lying, you're lying, or you're just selectively looking at people in the past, and you assume that everybody lived that way. The idea that like in the 60s, everybody had a white picket fence and a house and a dog, and that's just bullshit. That's a delusional view of the past. It's not true. It's absolutely not true. Okay. 525 or 725? Fuck no. I didn't have no 725 minimum wage when I was at McDonald's. That must have happened after. It would have been after 2007, 2008.
You're saying that the minimum wage was below $7 at one point?
I think it was 525. Yeah. Well, hold on. What was it? When did didn't Obama raise the federal minimum wage? As of December 20.
Because it was $7.25 when I started working.
I think somebody said 2007. Destiny, it was easier to be independent on minimum wage 2 decades ago. No, it wasn't. You're delusional. You do not know what you're talking about. I'm so sorry. I don't know what else to tell you. You have no idea. You're absolutely fucking wrong. I think me and my high school girlfriend / first wife, I think we were able to do it, but it was because I worked at McDonald's. She worked at McDonald's. She had a second job babysitting at a church. And what was I doing? I think I might have gotten like a lead, like not a supervisor, but a shift lead promotion. I was starting to put more hours in before I switched to the casino. Then I switched to the casino job. Our rent, I want to say was like, God damn, what was it? Like 60, 70% of our income for the both of us living together. It was a lot. We paid a lot of money on rent, on a 1-bedroom apartment in Omaha, Nebraska. Okay. Fuck the Zoomers that are trying to rewrite. Okay. Now, because this is my history. Okay. In 2005, 2006, 2007, it was not easy to live on minimum wage. Even if you had a fucking roommate or girlfriend to split with, it was not easy to live on minimum wage. You're so wrong. Fuck you. It's not at all.
We're raising families on that paycheck.
You guys also buy a lot more retarded shit today than we bought back then. In 2007, did you have to have a cell phone in 2007? I'm trying to remember. I think people did, but you didn't have to. I think by 2007, it was kind of expected you'd have at least a flip phone to call people on. But you sure as fuck weren't buying $1,000 phone like every year. That was insane. Well, maybe rich kids were, I guess. Also, there was never any like Uber Eats or DoorDash. You were never, ever, ever wasting money on shit like that. Holy fuck. There were no app store. Well, there might have been. I don't think that was real. Was there an app store with the first iPhone? I never had a first iPhone. I'm not sure. I don't know. Just the type of stuff that you spent money on was a lot different back then too. There wasn't like, you weren't ordering shit on Amazon or whatever. Oh God, 2-week shipping on Newegg if you ordered computer shit. Fuck that. People weren't ordering food delivery. No, believe it or not, back then, there were only 2 types of food that delivered. You could get pizza, and I think Chinese food places might deliver. But no, you had to actually get in your car, and you had to drive to the fast food restaurant and sit in the drive-thru and get the food on your own. It was a crazy time in the world. It was insane, okay? It was crazy back then.
Well, some of the people I worked with were raising families on that paycheck. They worked second or even third jobs to pay.
You said that you wouldn't order pizza or Chinese food. It is the most early 2000s thing. I'm sorry. Ordering pizza is not at all remotely the same as DoorDash or Uber Eats, okay? Two large pizzas can feed like fucking 5 or 6 or 7 people, depending on how hungry they are, okay? And it'll be like $30 or $40 with tip and breadsticks and like a 2-liter. Nowadays, DoorDash, hold on, let's see. What did I pay for my shit this morning? I can't believe if you're not, DoorDash and Uber Eats is like this should be like the most upper class. It is the biggest fucking waste of money shit in the universe. It's insane. I got 1 cappuccino, 1 hot chocolate, and 2 everything bagels.
How much was it?
$38.28. Wild times.
Rent and buy food. That only gets harder when the cost of living goes up.
Although I will say, there was a hidden OP. If you were a poor person for pizza places, okay, there was a hidden OP. And it was, oh my God. Dude, these are probably the cheapest calories in the fucking world, okay? People in Sudan wish they could get calories this cheaply. It's called Little Caesars. You'd pay $5 for a pre-made pizza, and then you could pay like 72 cents for crazy bread. These were the most unhealthy calories I've probably ever consumed in my entire life. Well, I think these were less than $1. This isn't crazy bread. This isn't the crazy bread that I remember. It was like garlicky. It was oh, hold on. This is closer. These were the crazy breads that I remember. Not really this. Kind of oh my God. Wrong. Chipotle with extra sides and double wrap burrito for like $5. Chipotle always came up. I think Chipotle was always like, that was like the preppy kids place. I don't think Chipotle was ever cheap. Was it?
No.
I'm trying to remember. I don't feel like Chipotle was ever cheap. Maybe it was. Maybe way back when it first started. I don't remember it ever being. But maybe I just didn't eat Chipotle way back then. For me growing up, the ultra cheap calories were for $2.13. No, it was $2.12. Double cheeseburgers were 99 cents each, and then there was a 7 cents sales tax. I feel like I paid $2.13 though. I wonder why that number is sticking out to me. I wonder if maybe our sales tax was 7.5%. But I think I paid $2.13. It was 2 double cheeseburgers. I think there were 300 calories a pop, and then you would ask for a cup for water, and you'd steal Sprite, and that was your dinner for the night. Dollar menus were king. True. Taco Bell had like a whole bunch of cheap shit too. Hell yeah.
They have spicy potato tacos.
Yeah.
Fucking delicious.
People would always say like fast food is a luxury. Poor people couldn't afford that. Fuck that. Fast food was a lifesaver. You just can't buy like crazy shit. People go to fast food places and they would buy insane shit. Be like, yeah, no wonder it's expensive for you, dog. Like,
Okay, but poor people meal is eating SpaghettiOs out of a can without even fucking.
Okay, that's like poverty. That's like
poverty,
destitution meals. Okay, Jesus.
Or eating hot dogs raw. Cause
Why would you ever do that?
they're cooked. They're pre-cooked.
Yeah, but that's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, but if you don't have a microwave.
How do you not have a microwave?
Or a stove, you know.
Ugh.
Or our stove didn't work. Yeah, so I would just eat those hot dogs fucking bare ass.
At that point, you should just steal. Become a thief.
Yeah, yeah. No shit.
The apps are the new cheat code. What are the new? Hold on. I predict that when we finally get to the Econ arc, you're going to get more hate than the Palestine Rittenhouse stealth thing, and maybe even the Trump arc combined. I already get a lot of hate for my Econ takes, so. Okay, listen to the rest of this while I do my emails.
I am elected president, I will make it a top priority to bring down costs and increase economic security for all Americans. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. We all know that prices went up during the pandemic when the supply chains shut down and failed. But our supply chains have now improved, and prices are still too high. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%. Many of the big food companies are seeing their highest profits in 2 decades. And while many grocery chains pass along these savings, others still aren't. Look, I know most businesses are creating jobs, contributing to our economy, and playing by the rules. But some are not. And that's just not right. And we need to take action.
There's no way. There's no way this is true. I don't believe this. But
when that is the case. As Attorney General in California, I went after companies that illegally increased prices, including wholesalers that inflated the price of prescription medication, and companies that conspired with competitors to keep prices of electronics high. I won more than $1 billion for consumers. So believe me, as president, I will go after the bad actors. And I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food. My plan will include new penalties for opportunistic companies that exploit crises and break the rules, and we will support smaller food businesses that are trying to play by the rules and get ahead. We will help the food industry become more competitive, because I believe competition is the lifeblood of our economy. More competition means lower prices for you and your families. Now compare what Donald Trump plans to do. He wants to impose what is, in effect, a national sales tax on everyday products and basic necessities that we import from other countries. That will devastate Americans. It will mean higher prices on just about every one of your daily needs. A Trump tax on gas, a Trump tax on food, a Trump tax on clothing, a Trump tax on over-the-counter medication. And you know, economists have done the math. Donald Trump's plan would cost a typical family $3,900 a year. At this moment, when everyday prices are too high, he will make them even higher. As president, I'll take on the issue of the cost of health care. As Attorney General, I took on insurance companies and Big Pharma and got them to lower their prices. And together with President Biden, we've gone even further. We capped the price of insulin at $35 a month, and the total cost of prescription drugs at $2,000 a year for seniors. We let Medicare negotiate lower drug prices for seniors. And just yesterday, we announced that we are lowering the price by up to 80% for 10 more life-saving drugs. And I pledge to continue this progress. I'll lower the cost of insulin and prescription drugs for everyone with your support, not only our seniors. And demand transparency from the middlemen who operate between Big Pharma and the insurance companies who use opaque practices to raise your drug prices and profit off your need for medicine. 2 months ago, I announced that medical debt will no longer be used against your credit score. And I will work as president with states like here in North Carolina, Roy Cooper, thank you again, to cancel medical debt for more and more, millions more Americans. As for Donald Trump, well, he wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which 45 million Americans rely on. 45 million Americans rely on it for health care. That would take us back to a time when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We all remember what that was. And we're not going back. We're not going back. And remember, and this is why we're not going back, because we do remember, he tried to cut Medicare every year he was president, threatening a program that tens of millions of seniors count on. And according to his Project 2025 agenda, he intends to undo our work to bring down prescription drugs, the cost of prescription drugs, and insulin costs. Well, we've come too far to let that happen. So we're not going back on that, and let's talk about the cost of housing. So now, the housing market can be complicated, but look, I'm not new to this issue. As State Attorney General, I drafted and helped pass a homeowner Bill of Rights, one of the first in America. And during the foreclosure crisis, I took on the big banks for predatory lending with many of my colleagues, including Roy Cooper, and won $20 billion for California families when I was Attorney General. So I know how to fight for people who are being exploited in the housing market. And I know what home ownership means. It's more than a financial transaction. It's so much more than that. It's more than a house. Home ownership and what that means, it's a symbol of the pride that comes with hard work.
God, I hate this American obsession with owning homes. God, it's so fucking cringe.
It's financial security. It represents what you will be able to do for your children. And sadly, right now, it is out of reach for far too many American families. There's a serious housing shortage. In many places, it's too difficult to build, and it's driving prices up. As president, I will work in partnership with industry to build the housing we need, both to rent and to buy. We will take down barriers and cut red tape, including at the state and local levels. And by the end of my first term, we will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class. And we will do that together. We will do that together. And we will make sure those homes actually go to working and middle class Americans, not just investors. Because, you know, some corporate landlords, some of them, buy dozens, if not hundreds, of houses and apartments. Then they turn them around and rent them out at extremely high prices. And it can make it impossible then for regular people to be able to buy or even rent a home. Some corporate landlords collude with each other to set artificially high rental prices, often using algorithms.
Is this even a real phenomenon? I don't believe any of this now. But everybody likes the housing talk, and both sides love the housing shit. I think it's all bullshit, but, you know, whatever.
Price-fixing software to do it.
How is insulin a new service? Because the insulin that's available today is infinitely better than the dog shit insulin that was available decades ago.
It's anti-competitive, and it drives up costs. I will fight for a law that cracks down on these practices. We also know that as the price of housing has gone up, the size of down payments have gone up as well. Even if aspiring homeowners save for years, it often still is not enough. So in addition, while we work on the housing shortage, my administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home. We can do this. We can do this. All to help more Americans experience the pride of home ownership and the financial security that it represents and brings. So that's my plan. But here's what Donald Trump would do. If his Project 2025 agenda is put into effect, it will add around $1,200 a year to the typical American mortgage. He's got it backward. We should be doing everything we can to make it more affordable to buy a home, not less. Finally, there's one more way I will help families deal with rising costs, and that's by letting you keep more of your hard-earned money. Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut, and we will do this by restoring 2 tax cuts designed to help middle-class and working Americans: the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Child Tax Credit. Through which millions of Americans with children got to keep more of their hard-earned income. We know this works and has a direct impact on so many issues, including child poverty. We know it works. So as president, I'll not only restore that tax cut, but expand it. We will provide $6,000 in tax relief to families during the first year of a child's life.
What is the Earned Income Tax Credit? I think that if you earn under a certain amount of money and you work, and especially if you have a kid, the more you work, I think you get you get big bonuses on your taxes for working, and especially if you have a kid, I think it boosts it a lot. But if you yeah, and it's a refundable tax credit as well, I believe. So you can end up getting more money back than you even paid in, or if you paid nothing, you could still get money back. I think the EITC is refundable, right?
Now think what that means.
Yes.
Think what that means. That is a vital, vital year of critical development of a child. And the cost can really add up, especially for young parents who need to buy diapers and clothes and a car seat and so much else. And we will do this while reducing the deficit. Compare my plan with what Donald Trump intends to do. He plans to give billionaires massive tax cuts year after year. And he plans to cut corporate taxes by over $1 trillion, even as they pull in record profits. And that's on top of the $2 trillion tax cut he already signed into law when he was president, which, by the way, overwhelmingly went to the wealthiest Americans and corporations and exploded the national deficit. You know, I think that if you want to know who someone cares about, look who they fight for. Look who they fight for. Donald Trump fights for billionaires and large corporations. I will fight to give money back to working and middle-class Americans. So I'll end with this. 2 days ago, Donald Trump was here in North Carolina. He said he was going to talk about the economy. I think you all watched. You know what I'm about to say. But he offered no serious plans to reduce costs for middle-class families. No plan to expand access to housing or health care. And that, actually, I think for most of us, was not...
What's your take on the housing problems that many Americans are complaining of? How do you think we should address it? I mean, what she's saying is probably fine. This is like, I think people are retarded when it comes to homes, and so you have to play into the retardation. I think that Americans viewing home ownership as like a final end goal and like an ultimate determiner of your successful in life, I think is dumb. And I think that having your home be your primary wealth vehicle, I think is also really dumb. But I mean, I don't know, people... it's a very American idea, and I mean, you should probably play into it if you're a politician and you're running in the American presidency. So, yeah.
Surprising. Because we already know his plans. We know the Project 2025 agenda. So there's a choice in this election. Donald Trump's plans to devastate the middle class, punish working people, and make the cost of living go up for millions of Americans. And on the other hand, when I'm elected president, what we will do to bring down costs, increase the security and stability financially of your family, and expand opportunity for...
Why is it homes generally always gain value and you can leverage it and live in it? Because your place that you live is a place you live. You're paying money to live there. It's not a wealth vehicle. You're not usually leveraging it, or you should like taking loans out against it to try to access some of this appreciation. I just think it's dumb. And it comes with, and it's wealth that's locked into a particular spot. It's hyper undiversified. You're super vulnerable to certain swings in the market. There's like it can be destroyed. There's just like, but this is just it's a very emotional feeling. It's a very poor and middle class like financial retardation mindset of like the home is the most important wealth building thing. It's a financially illiterate person's idea. But the majority of people in the country are financially illiterate, including you motherfuckers. So you're like, home ownership.
Working and middle class Americans. So now is the time to chart a new way forward. Now is the time to chart a new way forward, to build. New way forward. New way forward. New way forward. A new way forward. Yes, a new way forward. To build an America where everyone's work is rewarded.
It's the most expensive thing most people will own in their lifetime and valuable to people's spirit because they grow families in them. Hard to understand for a 35-year-old permanent bachelor. So if you want to buy a house to settle down with a family because that's your goal, that's fine. But the problem is you don't view it as just that, because that's not enough for you. So what you just said isn't enough. Because if you wanted to have a house as just a place to raise a family, then you would say, oh, I'm buying a house because I want to raise a family, and that's what I'm going to do. That's a totally acceptable reason to buy a house. But even you don't think that's good enough, and that's why you pad it with retarded shit like, it's a very important investment vehicle so I can build my fucking wealth. Really? Wow. What wealth do you have? You had a house that you bought for $300,000, and now it's worth $1.5 million. What do you have to show for it? What's that $1.5 million doing for you? How are you going to access it? Are you going to get a home equity line of credit to buy shit on? What the fuck? What do you mean? Like, it's just if you want to buy a house, there's only one good reason to buy a house. The only good reason to buy a house is because you want a house. That's it. It's not an investment vehicle. That's like buying a car and saying, I think a car is a good investment vehicle because some people are taxi drivers. Investment vehicles are things that either have some cash flow associated with them or they have some accessible appreciation of value, right? So if you buy a house and you rent it out to people, oh, that's a good investment. That is an investment, right? It's an asset, it appreciates in value, and you've got cash flow associated with it. Your house is a place that you fucking live, you fucking moron. You live there. That's a place you live. You can't access the wealth in that because you're not going to be borrowing against it for what? To invest in other things? Like, fuck off, okay? Just, if you want to buy a house, is it not something you can sell when you retire? Is that... Why am I getting... I don't even care. Why do I care? I don't care that much about this. When you talk about... Imagine all the people in 2008 that wanted to sell their home when they retire. Wow, congratulations. You've just lost 60% of your net worth because you happen to retire in an off year. Like, no. Out of touch? No, I already told you this is an out-of-touch take. I agree with you because I'm not financially retarded. The average person is financially retarded. I agree. The in-touch statement is to be a retard and to say, well, if I rent an apartment, I'm just setting my money on fire. And if I own a house and it all, because the house has always got a value, and so I always have more money at the end. Yes, that's the in-touch take. I understand. Okay, that's fine. Listen, do what you want. I don't care. It's your money, okay?
And talents are valued, where we work with labor and business to strengthen the American economy, and where everyone has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. So I thank you, North Carolina. We're going to get this done. And with your help, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. God bless
you. Home's not diversified, but bought how much on CrowdStrike? I'm sorry, do you think the majority or even a plurality of my portfolio is in CrowdStrike right now? Number one, okay? Number two, are we fighting homeowners today? I love fighting homeowners. Biggest L take, home owning is the easiest way to build wealth. Most folks are too financially literate to build a stock portfolio that pulls consistent returns. You don't have to build a stock portfolio. You just have to buy mutual funds or buy ETFs. There are plenty of boring, broad investments. You open an account at Fidelity or probably even the major banks will let you open an investment account and you just buy the ordinary, boring, broad fund tracking shit. And you know what's nice about that? It goes up broadly with the market. It goes down broadly with the market. It's highly diversified. It's incredibly liquidable. You can sell a little bit if you need some money to buy something. You don't have to take out fucking loans against it. Oh my goodness. And you know what? It doesn't have the stipulation that you're forced to live in one fucking area because God forbid, holy fuck, God forbid, you or your wife get a different job. God forbid something happens in your city and you really want to move somewhere else. God forbid your parents get sick and now you have to do long-term care and you can't stay in the same place and you've only owned that house for 2 or 3 or 4 years. And now you got to sell your home again. You got to pay closing costs twice. The market might be in a downturn. Maybe you already done major repairs. You're not even getting your fucking money back. Like, whoo, that's a lot of liability. For what? Correct, but the only decent argument I've heard against this is that this is the only asset class they get to leverage into thanks to the mortgage. But I totally agree. True. That is true. But I guarantee you the average homeowner doesn't even know what leveraging means. But you could argue with that. You know what? That would actually be that would have been a based and epic reply for a mortgageoid to come in and be like, you really think homeowning is a bad investment, Destiny? And I'm like, yeah, give me one good reason why you should view homeownership as a fucking investment. And the guy goes, show me one other security where I can leverage my money 10 to 1 and actually have an investment that gives me like a return on my investment. Who's going to give me those kinds of margins? I'm like, wait, what do you mean leverage your money? It's like, I put $100,000 down on $1 million mortgage. So show me on Robinhood where I can open an account, put $100,000 into account on $1 million investment. Go ahead, Destiny. I'm like, fuck. Oh, shit. And we're not even getting into FHA loans. I can do 3%. I can put 3% down. Where am I getting these type of investment opportunities anywhere else? 3% down at 2.5% interest? No, now it's like 5 or 6%. Whew, shit. I'd be shaking. Boy, do I have a product for you. It's called Intel Call Options. True. How risky is it to leverage a home? Well, everybody usually leverages when they're buying a home because they're taking out a loan called a mortgage for the home, right?